Hello, and welcome to the advanced guide for Windwalker Monks in patch 7.0. We're going to get a lot more into the nitty-gritty here. There's going to be a lot more to go over, and so I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible. We're going to be going over the talents, the spec changes, the stats, the best gear, and at the end, the rotation. And there's going to be a lot to go over during the rotation, so just keep that in mind. So first things first, we're going to be going over the talents. Going to be saying a few things that I already said in the basic guide, but whatever. The first tier, we have Chi Burst. That's going to be your talent of choice for AoE fights or fights where there's going to be adds coming up at any point in time, whether that be something, for example, like Iskar or Zul'Horik or Archimonde. That's the one that you're going to want to take. But this also completely depends on your raid makeup. If you have a lot of classes that can take care of the ads very quickly, monks require a little bit of setup time for their AoE. So it all depends on your raid makeup. So if you feel that you're not going to be able to get a lot of damage out, it's better to go with Chi Wave. And Chi Wave is your single target talent of choice here for the first tier. Eye of the Tiger just does not do enough damage. It's not worth it. Second tier, we have Chi Torpedo. I wouldn't use it. Celerity, wouldn't use it. Tiger's Lust is the best way to go. Reason you don't want to use the other two is because Chi Torpedo is basically just momentum, and Celerity doesn't really make any sense anymore considering that Chi Torpedo is no longer a damaging ability. So Tiger's Lust is where you want to go. Third tier. Despite what I said in the basic guide, right now, for Mythic rating at least, Energizing Elixir is the way you want to go, but this also entirely depends on how much haste you have. I have about 22% haste, depends on the gear that I have on, but it works really well with my rotation, and the moment it comes off cooldown is when I actually need it. So this is really good for me. Ascension is for when you really just don't have the haste. Say, if you have anywhere around 10 to 15% haste, this is what you want, because otherwise you're just not going to be able to get enough energy in order to get all the moves out that you need, and it's just going to make your mastery useless. Power Strikes, very good to use. It works with a rotation really, really well, but it doesn't give the absolute, it doesn't give you the best DPS. You can do a lot better with Energizing Elixirs. So, Power Strikes is good. It helps you understand your rotation better, but once you understand everything, Energizing Elixir is the way you want to go. Ring of Peace, absolutely useless. Dizzying Kicks, absolutely useless unless you're a PvPer. Leg Sweep, this is what you want to choose 100% of the time. This should be your default, because the only other CC or stun that you have is Paralysis, and that only affects one target. Can help on certain fights, but, you know, mass stun is what you want. Healing Elixirs, I can understand this being used for questing, or if you're really, you know, running into a whole bunch of fire or other avoidable damage and you actually need it, because this can save your life, but I don't think I would ever use it if I knew what I was doing. No offense, obviously. Don't want to offend anybody. Diffuse Magic. This is what I would absolutely recommend that you use. It is nowhere near as good as it used to be, because it used to be 90% of damage mitigation for 6 seconds. Now it's only 60, but it's still really, really good, especially when you have a hard-hitting attack coming out for that does magic damage, or if you're just taking a lot of magic damage and the healers need some help and, you know, you want to live. Dampen Harm is absolutely useless, so wouldn't even bother going that route. Rushing Jade Wind. This is one of the moves that ties in with your AoE rotation. So with an AoE rotation, it's a lot different than a single target rotation. We'll get into that near the end of the video, but it's different than it used to be. Now it costs 1 chi instead of energy, and well, we'll talk about it more later on. It can be a little complex. Invoke Swen. I'm really disappointed that this is no longer a good talent to use. This might change in Legion, but for now it's really useless. The damage that it does is absolutely horrendous. I don't even go near this. I miss my Tiger, but it's garbage. Hit Combo. Hit Combo is the best single target talent that you can choose. It increases your damage, you can read it here, but it increases your damage by 16% eventually, and this stacks on top of your new mastery, Combo Strikes. My mastery is, depending on the gear that I'm wearing, anywhere from 20% to 25%. So this can add up to 36 to 41% extra damage for each ability that I'm using, as long as it's not a repeat, which is amazing. It's better than just putting on like a whole bunch of versatility gear. So hit combos is great for single target. However, the main thing that you need to remember is that when you're using hit combo, say for example you accidentally do 2 blackout kicks in a row and you have that 8 stacks of hit combo up. Your 8 stacks disappear immediately if you use another ability of the same, like if you use 2 blackout kicks in a row. So you have to be 100% sure that you're never going to be using the same ability twice in a row. Just gotta keep that in mind. Last tier, Chi Orbit, completely useless. This will probably get better later on, or maybe they'll hotfix it, but for now the damage is absolutely garbage. I understand some players want to go with a more passive route where they don't have to use as many abilities or keep up to date on what they actually have to use, weak ores and all that shenanigans, but I would stay away from this. Whirling Dragon Punch. I love this ability. It's they did a really good job adding this into the rotation because when you use it, it absolutely works with the rest of your abilities. It fits in 100% perfectly. You will have absolutely no problem keeping your mastery up. But the problem with this is it has to deal with the bug that you may have seen in the first video and that other people have been talking about. And that plays into Serenity as well. Right now, let me go back to this. Right now, Storm, Earth, and Fire is bugged. It's our new DPS cooldown. It's been reworked. It used to be, you know, you just choose a target, throw a spirit at it, choose another target, throw another spirit at it. You can just choose whatever targets you want, and the damage goes towards them as well as the target that you have now. Now it just splits the targets and spreads them everywhere unless you hit the ability again, and it focuses your target. This would be great, and all targets should be doing 45% of normal damage, which if you add that up is 135. My math could be wrong, but 135%. So it's a good DPS cooldown. The problem is that it's bugged in the sense that your spirits do not actually benefit from your mastery. So in the end, you could actually do better damage by simply just attacking the target by yourself, and you do less DPS with this ability. So right now you have to go with Serenity, so you don't get to use Whirling Dragon Punch, and that does not get added to your rotation. Serenity, it's pretty good for single target. When I played the Legion beta and in the PTR, it was better to use Storm, Earth, and Fire, but for now, Serenity is the main default choice that you're going to have to go with. This could be changed very quickly. Hopefully it is hotfixed as soon as possible, but Serenity does change your rotation a lot just because of the lack of this other ability, but at the same time, Serenity can sometimes mess up your rotation because you have to continuously hit jab and you'll G-cap yourself, so we'll go over that a little bit later though. Alright, so next up is the spec changes. I'm going to try and go over as much as possible here, but I might forget a couple things. Just going to try and get all the important stuff out of the way. First thing is Jab. Jab is no longer Jab. It is now Tiger Palm. Costs 50 energy, gives us the 2 chi like normal, except now that Tiger Palm is the new Jab, it no longer has the buff that we need to keep up. So that's one less thing to watch, but that goes into the whole deal where now instead of all the upkeep things that we need to watch, we have the mastery. We'll talk about that more in the rotation. Second thing, Blackout Kick no longer costs 2 chi, only costs 1 now, which is good. Also goes into our rotation, go more into that later. Rising Sun Kick, still 2 chi. Like I said before though, no longer gives anything to watch, so there's no more debuff, so don't need to worry about that. Fist of Fury, pretty normal, still the same exact thing. Touch of Death. Touch of Death, as I said in the basic video, is now an ability that you can use at any point during the fight instead of the last 10% of the health. of any mob that you're going up against, and it activates after 8 seconds. I won't show it in the video, but one of the fun things to do, especially while you're questing, because this doesn't really work in raiding, is being able to use paralysis and CC something immediately after you use Touch of Death, and you can just leave it there and it explodes and dies. So keep that in mind. Let's see, defensives. Said this in the basic video, we no longer have Fortifying Brew, we no longer have Zen Meditation. All we have, besides our talent that we can choose, Diffuse Magic, is Touch of Karma. This has also been nerfed, so it doesn't keep you safe for as long as it used to, but the main thing that you have to keep in mind is that it is your only cooldown, your only defensive, besides the talent that you take. You have to make sure that you only use this when you absolutely have to, or else you are going to die from something in the fight, so you have to be very, very careful when to use this. Let's see. We also have a few other losses that haven't been reworked, they're just gone. Tiger Eye Brew. Rest in peace, Tiger Eye Brew. I love that ability. It worked a lot of magic in PvE and a lot of magic in PvP especially, but that's 100% gone. Expel Harm is gone, so now we have no other way to get Chi besides Tiger Palm. Yeah, that's unfortunate. And a Fuse, our heal, is absolutely crap. A lot of other classes have crap heals, but ours is also crap, which is unfortunate. One thing that I did forget to mention, though, is Spinning Crane Kick. We'll go over this a little bit more later, but Spinning Crane Kick no longer costs energy. It's 3 Chi now, and its use is a bit complex. We'll go over more of that later. And I'm pretty sure that is all that we really need to go over as far as the changes go, so I'll go right into the next stuff. Alright, so our stats don't necessarily matter as much as you think they would. Right now, on my character, I have 11% versatility, because it's good to go to about 10%, no less than 10%, and I wouldn't go much higher if possible, because the other stats are important too. Mastery is a little bit better than Crit and Haste, considering the combo strikes, but it is not that much better. Crit and Haste is still very important. You want to make sure that you have at least 20% haste, because anything less than that, you're not going to get the amount of damage that you could be getting out. You'll have to go with Ascension. Ascension's not bad, but it's just not the best talent that you can choose. And that's basically the stats. You don't really need to worry about them too much anymore. Alright, so the next thing to go over is gear. Gear really does not matter at this point. The only things that I have to say is for your weapons, use Mark of Shadow Moon. I'll be switching over to them very, very soon. Mark of War Summon still gives you haste, but Mark of Shadow Moon gives you the versatility for some extra burst damage, which is pretty good. The tier is still very, very good. Our tier set has been changed significantly, but it works very, very, very well with our mastery. So the 2 set, your Rising Sun Kick gives 2 charges of Masterful Strikes, which increases your mastery by 10% on next damaging ability. And Fist of Fury gives us 3 charges of that, and also increases our maximum energy. So this can stack up depending on how you use your rotation, and your attacks will just hit a lot harder. So this gives you a little bit of something to work with, so that way you can build up harder hitting attacks. But we'll go into that later. Trinkets. Your best trinkets to use right now are still your class trinket off of Argamond. And the second trinket should either be the Stone of the Elements or your Infallible Tracking Charm. That should only be used on demon fights, however. And once again, the procs are a little iffy, so you'll see a lot of people still continuing to use the Stone of the Elements because it just gives straight versatility. And if you do use the Infallible Tracking Charm, that does get rid of a lot of versatility, so you do have to change out a little bit of your gear to make sure that you still have that 10%. Alright, So we're gonna start off with the rotations here. First setup I have going is for specifically single target. Notice I don't have Serenity because there's a chance that sometime soon there may be a hot fix that will fix Storm, Earth, and Fire. So I just want to give you guys a perspective of both of them. So we're gonna start off here. You should always start. Let's put this on my bars. You should always start with Touch of Death. Immediately get that ability out there so that way it's on cooldown and you'll be up as soon as possible, because that is your biggest damaging ability. So throw that on there and just start generating chi. You want to make sure that you use all the abilities that you have that have cooldowns as soon as possible, including Whirling Dragon Punch. So notice that I'm getting Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury onto cooldown as quickly as possible. Also try to use Tiger Palm only when you absolutely have to. You don't want to energy starve yourself. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the tier does give you that extra buff called Masterful Strikes, which increases your mastery. So what you want to try and do is do a Rising Sun Kick immediately before a Fist of Fury. So Rising Sun Kick there, and then immediately a Fist of Fury. It's also good to start off a fight after hitting Touch of Death with a Rising Sun Kick and a Fist of Fury, so you also take advantage of that mastery buff and you can build up your hit combo. Notice Whirling Dragon Punch does add into the rotation really well, and I'm only just now getting energy starved. So I hit Energizing Brew, I get all my abilities back, as well as, all my chi back, as well as my energy, and I can continue the rotation. Now, when I put out Storm, Earth, and Fire spirits, notice they just start attacking everything. Seems like they killed themselves. But they start attacking everything. It increases the amount of damage that I can do, considering the 45% increase on each one of the spirits. It's bugged right now, but that should be fixed soon. Try and get away here, get rid of the combat. Now we'll switch over to Serenity. Now I no longer have use of Whirling Dragon Punch. So once again, start off with Touch of Death. We're going to use as much of our cooldown abilities at the beginning as possible. But eventually here, I become energy starved, and I really can't do much of anything. This is where Energizing Brew comes in, because I don't have that last ability, and I get all the chi and energy I need back. When using Serenity, it's a bit difficult because you have to make sure that you use it when all of your abilities are available. The best time to use this is when you have Fist of Fury immediately available, so you can Serenity, use Fist of Fury, and by the end of your Serenity, you should still be able to use a second Fist of Fury. So that way, it increases the damage of that Fist of Fury, as well as doesn't lose the chi that it costs to actually use it. And that's pretty much your single target rotation. Just want to make sure that you are never energy starved, because with Serenity you don't have Whirling Dragon Punch, you don't have that extra ability, you can become energy starved very quickly. That's where also Energizing Elixir or Power Strikes comes in to help you out. So now let's see the AoE rotation a little bit. These are the talents that you're going to want to keep for a purely AoE fight. You're going to want Chi Burst, Tiger's Lust, Energizing Elixir, Leg Sweep, Fuse Magic, those are all your basics. Rushing Jade Wind, and Whirling Dragon Punch. Whirling Dragon Punch you should always use for a purely AoE fight. I mean, for example, Hellfire Assault. Serenity you're going to want to use for fights where the adds come out in small increments throughout the fight, but they're not actually there the entire time. Now, the reason I say that the AoE is so complex for monks is that they rely on one specific debuff, and it's the only debuff that they give to targets. So you'll see here when I hit a target with Tiger Palm or Blackout Kick, they get a debuff called Mark of the Crane, which increases the damage of the monk's spinning crane kick by 50%, which means that on top of the 100% damage that's going to happen when I use spinning crane kick, I get 50% extra per target that I have this debuff on. Now the only way that you can get this debuff on the targets is through Tiger Palm or Blackout Kick. Now you're probably thinking, well, it stacks, that's great, but it's going to be a complete pain in the ass to go around and put this debuff on every single mob that I'm attacking if I'm attacking 15 at the same time. Well, hold on. This is where Storm, Earth, and Fire comes into play. Because when you use Storm, Earth, and Fire, remember that the spirits start attacking everything around you and they mirror your moves. So if you just let the spirits go out there and do their thing while you're also using Tiger Palm and Blackout Kick, then these stacks on your spinning crane kick are going to go up at a very, very, very fast rate. And your damage can just get to absolutely stupid numbers. Another thing that you're going to want to make sure that you watch out for is that since we're taking Rushing Jade Wind and it's a 1 chi cost for its attack, you do not want to use Blackout Kick unless you absolutely have to. So that way, Rushing Jade Wind basically just replaces it in your rotation. So Rising Sun Kick, Fist of Fury, you're going to continue to use those. Chi Burst, keep using it on cooldown. Whirling Dragon Punch is going to be used on cooldown as well, considering that you're going to have Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury on cooldown. But that does actually a large amount of AoE damage, especially when you have the Storm, Earth, and Fire spirits out. So just as a quick tutorial, I'm just going to come in here and start up my rotation. Now right here, I'm going to let my spirits out. I'm going to let them do their thing while I get my attacks in here. Notice how it got up to 5. Unfortunately, I think the rating dummy up there killed them, but it got up to 5, and so now I'm doing a lot more damage than I would be if I was just doing this by myself. You're going to continuously want to use your Rushing Jade Wind, get your Fist of Fury out there, but notice right here I become energy starved. So that's where Energizing Brew comes in. Or sorry, Energizing Elixir. That way you're able to get all the energy back, and you're also able to get a full bar of chi. But you can also use this during certain moments in fights, so that way you can get the full chi back in order to use another spinning crane kick. Keep in mind we're not using hit combos, so if we don't use the same attack as we did prior, it's not the end of the world, since we're not going to be using spinning crane kick over and over again, since it costs 3 chi and we have to, take the time to actually get that chi back. So that is the way that your AoE is going to work. It takes a little bit of practice, but I think that if you make sure that you don't get energy starved, you should get the hang of it pretty quickly. But that is what you do when you use Whirling Dragon Punch, since you still have that extra button. If you switch, don't know how I'm in combat here. If you switch over to Serenity here, then you'll notice that the playstyle changes up a little bit. Keep in mind that this is just going to be for fights where the ads come out in small increments. So we'll start up attacking our targets. We can't use the extra spirits in order to get these extra spinning crane kicks out, but we do have our Rushing Jade Wind. So we'll keep this buff up. And we'll get right here, pop Serenity, and we can just spam spinning crane kick. Meanwhile, while we do this, you probably want to get the Rushing Jade Winds in there. So that'll be for burst damage on ads. There, you don't use any of your mastery since we're just spamming spinning crane kick, but it still does enough damage if you have high enough stacks of spinning crane kick. That way you can just burst down ads. But otherwise, the best strategy to go with is to use Whirling Dragon Punch. And that is pretty much the AoE rotation. that's gonna be about it, guys. That is all I can really think of that people need to know for an advanced guide to monks. Obviously, practice makes perfect here, so some of the things I may have said may not make sense immediately, but if you keep trying at it, everything should meld together pretty well. Anyways, this has been Lumpy. If you guys have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. Any concerns, just let me know, and I can get them answered as soon as possible. And yeah, have a great one.